many polls went down last night?
Hopefully none so far.
Oh, good.
All right, looks like everybody's here.
Okay,
All right, I would like to call meeting for the Board of Water Commission on Friday, December 16th, 2022 at 9:01 a.m.
second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. All right, so welcome, Rob. Thanks for coming back and seeing us again.
Hi, glad to be here.
So I'm going to give you the floor to kind of review.
Sure. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thanks for having us, to the entire board. I know I believe you all received a copy of our draft proposal for the treatability study and capital improvement plan. I don't know as if the best use of time now is to go through it page by page. I'm happy to do so, but I think I'll give a 2-minute update, summary of what it is, and then open the floor to your questions, and we can talk about how to proceed. So, based on the meeting we had a number of weeks ago when I was sitting in the commission's chambers down there, our understanding was that you wanted us to take a look at the treatment plant and in its whole, look at all of the unit processes, right from the raw water quality in the reservoir to residuals handling on the back end of the process, as well as, of course, treated water and the quality of water as it moves through the treatment process. There's a number of prior reports that the board has had done, or the commission has had done. Part of our proposal is to review some of those. We don't plan on doing a detailed review of those documents. They're pretty voluminous when you start looking at the 14 or 15 prior studies that have been done. But we do plan to look at that to get oriented around some issues that other consultants may have identified. We'll truth those out, but really the proposal in front of you is for us to do a sort of an independent review, not basing it on prior work that's been done, but you want to get a fresh set of eyes on everything. So that's the intent of the proposal. The primary focus is to look at the treatment process itself and the physical condition of the plant. We will do a bit of work around, although it's a smaller portion of the work will be around structural HVAC plumbing type systems, but the focus really is on the treatability aspects of the plant, chemical feed systems and so forth. We'll do a little bit of demand projection to understand what the future of the town holds in terms of the demand. And we can tie that back into the flow rate that is going to be required of this plant and any additional processes or treatment elements that may need to be added. And we'll be recommending those if that warrants it. And we'll also be working, of course, with our O&M team to understand sort of the historical perspective on what's working there, what's not working, if there are safety concerns that we can identify through working with our O&M team. So that's the gist of the proposal. We've split it into 2 phases, which is really the initial phase is the treatment plan evaluation itself. And then the second phase is really the development of a 20-year capital improvement program, based on the findings of phase 1. Got a couple of just minor assumptions and clarifications in there. You see the total fee between the 2 phases is $186,600. We're proposing that as a lump sum. We've bracketed the scope pretty well, I think, so we prefer to do work on a lump sum basis. If there were a lot of unknowns, then we'd start talking about maybe doing a T&M type of contract. But here, I think the scope is pretty well defined, so we propose it as lump sum. I think that's the summary. Hope that was about 2 minutes. So I'll open it to questions from the commission.
So Rob, thank you for joining. Sorry about the back and forth emails with schedules and whatnot. Just my first take on the proposal, it was very simple to understand. It's, in my opinion, it's kind of what we are looking for. And I like the timelines. I like how you break it, Wood and Current breaks it down for phase 1 and 2 and the total. I really have no questions. This is kind of really on the wish list of what, at least in my opinion, what we were looking for. But again, I'll give it to Lee and Chris to throw their own comments in there. But, So I'm personally satisfied.
Okay, Rob. I just have a couple questions here on the demand projections. I know when the plant was originally built, it was built to accommodate expansion, and that, what, 50 years ago? Yeah. Having talked to the person who designed it, yes, I understand. But the demand projections, as you know, probably we are the only major water source in this area. All surrounding towns do not have very much water, and we have been approached by several different developers through the years. And we are providing water to Linden Ponds, and we may be approached for more applications to supply. Are you taking all that into account and what your demand for projections are? I don't see really any large expansion in Cohasset per se because of land availability.
Great question. So yes, we look at that. It can be at a high level if you feel that the open parcels in the community are not likely to be developed through conservation, as a conservation land, or there are other usage restrictions on those parcels. But generally what we'll do is we'll look at historical population growth over the years. We'll look at the available space within a community. Are there known large-scale developments that are anticipated or have come into planning board, over the past year or so that we know about? And we make some assumptions around how historical growth can be projected forward into future growth. So we do that, and deliberately we do this independently of the treatment facility. We want to know what is going to be expected of the water system under historical projection or historical growth projected out into the future. We separately and concurrently look at the treatment capacity. How much water can your treatment facility put through? And then we combine the two to see if we're going to need significant expansion, either in terms of additional unit processes from a quality standpoint, or simply process redundancy. The DEP, and I think I noted this during our call or our in-person meeting a few weeks ago, is they require N+1 redundancy. So if you have two unit treatment trains, each one should theoretically be capable of treating 50% of the flow. DEP wants you to have a third train so that if one of your existing trains is out, you can provide that amount of water. And I think we made mention of it in the proposal that we'll look at all of this with the DEP perspective in mind, what they're going to require from a process redundancy standpoint. So all of that sort of plays into the population projection. Is the plant capable of treating the quantity of water that the town is going to need? And we've seen analyses like this with all sorts of different results. Either your treatment plant has more than enough capacity because it was designed, with a certain capacity in mind. The town maybe has done a good job of curbing usage, and therefore towns or cities that we've worked with are all set. And then we've seen the other end of the spectrum too, where population is expected to continue to grow. Even with some reasonable per capita per day consumption numbers, it's going to exceed the capacity of this existing plant. And now you need to start looking at plant expansion.
Okay, well, I know back in the days when the 1960s projections were done by the state, we were looking at possibly 30,000 population, which is never going to happen. And I know redundancy has been put in, but unfortunately during the year, some of the redundancy has lapsed because we have not maintained things in the 80s and 90s. But my question was demand projections by surrounding towns for sale of water, not just for our personal use.
If that's something that you'd like us to look at, we can take a cursory look. We have relationships with a lot of the communities around the South Shore. I had not planned on doing a detailed population projection in surrounding communities, if that's what you're asking. So,
well, no, it's not population, but I'm just saying for the populations they are having serious problems. And there has been talk in the wind over the years of us taking over our population in North Cohasset that is being fed through the Ware River system. So if we have to put that into our system, which is, a portion of Cohasset.
So what's included in the proposal as it's written is not looking at surrounding communities, but that is a good point to note, Lee. What I would suggest is we leave this proposal as is. We'll do the projections for the town of Cohasset alone and determine what plant upgrades are necessary to satisfy the town's own demand. And then the board or the commission can make a decision on whether or not you want to entertain providing water to other communities.
Yeah, well, as I said, we have been asked to provide water. The only reason that we're not providing it to a Toll Brothers proposed development on 3A is because they were denied sewer.
Okay. So would
So-
you like, I guess I'll ask the question back. Would you like us to, add a piece in here under the demand projections is to evaluate the desires of the neighboring communities to provide in terms of what they might request from the town of Cohasset, and then we can build that in and speak to whether or not you have capacity to sort of entertain those additional requests?
Oh, yes, and also the portion of North Cohasset that is on Ware River. In the event that that actually does come to pass, that we include that within our population. Because we have this situation with North Cohasset with sewer and water.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can add something in, certainly, Lee. Thank you.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So on the last page, the schedule, it says the phase 1 would be completed within 9 months. So a few things, is that the maximum time you would expect? And secondly, why does it take that long?
Yes, that is the maximum. We will endeavor to finish before the 9 months and certainly start the CIP work prior to the end of that 9 months. So it's like, I feel like it's a significant effort, Chris. If we'll do everything we can to expedite that, of course, but I don't want to promise something sooner than that and then exceed that time frame that we've given ourselves. There's a lot of evaluations that have to happen here. We're looking at historical water quality. We may be making suggestions to the O&M team about collecting additional water quality, and that may not happen. We may want to get some additional summer water quality as part of this, which would push it out into the warmer weather months next summer anyway. But it's, we're looking at close to 1,000 hours worth of work to do this evaluation, and we want to do a thorough job.
Okay. And so we have Lauren here, who would be the project manager.
Yes.
But who else would be involved? Would you have technicians or engineers on site? And how would the process go exactly?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Chris. So Lauren, I didn't want to burden the commission with meeting our entire team, but I will stay involved as sort of the principal in charge. Of course, we have our O&M team. Lauren will be the project manager. We have, there's a gentleman by the name of Kyle Corbeil. By title, he's the technical manager 2. That's just a Woodard and Curran terminology. So he is the horsepower driving the technical elements of this review on the process side of things. We also have project engineer level folks, which is another step or two down from him. And the bulk of the hours will fall under her. On the disciplines piece, the structural, the HVAC, we have discipline leads in all of those different sub-disciplines. I am not a structural engineer nor a HVAC person. So we have folks from those disciplines all in-house within Woodard and Curran coming in to do a tour and provide their high-level summary of what the structural integrity of the plant looks like, the HVAC system review, the electrical review, those sorts of things. So it's all done internally, but Lauren and this gentleman, Kyle, and I will be bringing in folks from those disciplines to perform that task.
Okay. And do you, so say it does take 9 months, would you anticipate this is a daily and weekly focus for the plant staff? So Fred and Jonathan, are they going to be engaged on this on a daily or weekly basis?
Certainly not daily, probably weekly and certainly monthly. There'll be, and I say that it may be daily for the first say several weeks, not all day, every day, of course, but there's going to be some getting up to speed by our teams. We have some site visits planned and we'll need to coordinate that closely with the plant staff down there. But once we collect all of the data, do our initial round of interviews, meet with the commissioners, meet with our operations folks. Our intent is to not get in their way, or to get in their way as little as possible. They have a plant to operate that doesn't change with the work that we're doing here. We'll certainly be going to them with questions, but my intent is certainly not to burden Jonathan's day every day with questions. We'll try and package them up, send over, say, a list of questions. He can take his time to review those, get answers to those, maybe collect data, and then get that back to our engineering team. But is it daily for the 9 months or however long it takes? Absolutely not.
Okay, and how do you envision communication or interaction with the board throughout that phase one?
That's entirely up to you. I don't recall if we put in, a meeting schedule in here. Let me just give a quick scan here. But what we would generally do is, you identify a point person, from the commission. We will work with that person as well as, Fred as the, area manager for our O&M team. Generally what works is just emails. We're going to go back and forth with emails. If we have something that's more urgent than that, or we really need an answer right away to continue our piece of the work, we'll make some phone calls. But I think, you tell us who you want to be included with that list and we can accommodate that.
Okay. And so if it does take 9 months and you're doing monthly billing, would you anticipate it's that 89,000 divided by 9, or would you anticipate fluctuations based on your labor hours?
I'll anticipate fluctuations there. There'll be a bit of work in the beginning. If you were to do a curve, there'd be, a bit of higher, not divided by 9, but it'd be more than an average, say, in the beginning few months as we get up to speed. Then we'll sort of level off through the middle of the project. And I would expect another sort of bump in the billing towards the end of the project as we wrap up the reports.
Okay, that makes sense. And I see the timeline for phase 2 is not here. So what would we expect for a phase 2 timeline?
Maybe I should have been more clear. I will need to check with Kyle. He's our technical manager. What I think I meant in that statement, and this is my error, is I think it's 9 months from start to finish, not just for phase 1, but I will have to confirm that.
Okay. Well, that certainly would eliminate my first question of why does it take so long? Because I was anticipating potentially a phase 1, 9 months, and a phase 2, some number of months after that too. So if this phase 1 and phase 2 could be completed in 9 months, that would, I think, set the board up and the department up well.
That's my fault, Chris. I will make that adjustment. I'll confirm on my end and then send an email to this group with what our intent was there on the schedule.
Okay. Yeah, in terms of the content and the scope, I agree with Steve. I think this is summarizes exactly what we discussed, and I think pinpoints exactly what we're looking for. I would be interested to see if Fred or Jonathan have any comments or questions or concerns in terms of, how this may impact, or how this aligns with what we discussed. Our objectives are.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I think it aligns perfectly with our objective. And as far as putting a plan together, of course, to implement it, it's going to take funding, and that would be the next step. But right now, I believe we certainly have the A-team on it, and I'm very comfortable with the proposal.
Okay. Anything to add, Jonathan?
I shared my comments with Fred. I would like to see a little attention on the water towers and a little less on structural and electrical, but other than that, yes, very satisfied.
Okay. So we should want to make we'll make a motion to accept, and we'll just come in and sign off. You guys comfortable? Do we need to make a motion, Brenda? Probably.
You know, I
I
do
would-
have,
you're gonna
I
sign
do
it?
have one comment. Yeah, excuse me, I do have one comment about the hydraulics of the town. And it might be worth a conversation. I apologize for this being so late, but when you look at tank storage, Rob, available fire flow and so forth, those tanks drop not much before there's no available fire flow. And I'm wondering if we should look at the hydraulic component of this water system as well as to why it was designed that way. There's no real good justification as to why they did it, other than obviously elevation and availability of land, in my mind, but there might be some other things worth looking at here. It's kind of like the Achilles heel. Jonathan, remind me with the tank elevations, it goes from, 50 something to 46 or 47, and then they're done. They can't, we have to contact the fire department and say, you can't put out fires. I've never really seen anything like that. It might be worth looking at, or at least another discussion. And again, I apologize for last minute, but it just kind of came up. Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
so the towers have about 10 feet of usable storage and then like 45 feet of dead storage, and neither tank has mixers. So those would be my top concerns and comments regarding that.
And maybe Brian Joyce we can clear it up with a conversation with him as far as modeling and hydraulics. He might have more information.
Brian's with us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm on the phone. I'm down on South Main Street. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we
Yep.
got you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's worthwhile to go through and at least just state the hydraulics of the system. But I mean, it's 10 feet of usable storage. If you're fighting a fire at the top of the hill, obviously we're all just one pressure zone. So, that 45 feet is really, anything at the top of the hills, you're not going to have pressure, but obviously the majority of the town that's close to the ocean, you're still going to have a significant amount of pressure to fight fires. So it's, I wouldn't just blanket statement say it's 10 feet of usable storage. I mean, obviously you're not covering the entire town, but it's just the higher elevations, obviously you're losing pressure, and there's ways to mitigate that, or maybe it's not worth it to mitigate it. So I think quantifying the amount of usable storage, like volume wise, and then, how long you could fight a fire, at whatever hydrant, 2 or 3 hydrant flows. I think it's worth quantifying, and then if we need to expand that into like a capital project down the road, I think it would make sense.
So, hi, Brian, this is Rob Little from Woodard and Company. The proposal that's in front of the commission now does not include a distribution system analysis. Based on our meeting a few weeks ago, my understanding was that was not going to be part of this. Obviously, hydraulic modeling and distribution analysis is something that Woodard and Curran can do and does do very frequently. Sometimes as part of a study like this, other times as a standalone item. So I guess I'd be looking for some direction from the commission on whether or not that would be a separate task, a separate agreement provided by Woodard and Curran, something that you'd like added on to this one, and then we can resubmit. It's really up to you how you want to package that, if you want us to take a look at that at all.
Okay, yeah, no, I think it's a worthwhile discussion, but I think we need to kick the tires a little bit more in-house, maybe with a smaller group, and say, what would we be looking for a hydraulic analysis? I don't think it's our initial goal up front, but I think it's worth mentioning what the hydraulics of the town is, at least just kind of from a high level.
Sure.
Yes, and that second tank we have is relatively new, because we only were running on one tank for decades.
Mhm. Right. And standpipes, I think it was Brian's point, standpipes are notorious for exactly what you just described. The top few feet or 10 feet, whatever it might be, is usable storage. And then all the water below that is there to support the water that's in the top 10 feet. That's why you see tanks like composite tanks or pedestal spheroids, which looks like the golf ball on top of the tee, that makes all of the water stored usable, and you don't have a stagnation problem with the bottom sections of the tank.
All right. Chris, Lee, you feel comfortable kind of moving forward with them?
It's just
I do.
finding, the money, but otherwise, yes.
Okay. So I'll just make a motion for the Cohasset Water Department to hire Wood and Curran to perform the water treatment plan evaluation and 20-year capital plan.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. All right, Rob, we'll get that signed and Brenda, whoever can send it over to your office to get going.
Just, I guess, a point of clarification. So I know you made a motion, it was seconded.
Yeah, that's
and-
fine.
So I'll get back to you on the schedule to confirm the 9-month period. And I believe the instruction was to add in, I'd say, a high level look at some of the demands of the surrounding communities. What we may be able to provide them from the town of Cohasset. Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, just as long as we know that we can be supplying water, what our maximum is, in
So
case
as-
situations
yes.
have been developing consistently, and
Okay,
the
so,
residents are complaining about the water situation.
sure. So the proposal will stand as written. It's, we will provide, say, here's what the demand within the town looks like. Here's what your treatment plan can provide. And then it would be up to the commission on whether or not you'd want to take that excess capacity and provide it to adjacent communities.
Yeah, just as long as we know we have excess capacity.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So that's in there. And so I'll clean it up. I'll take the draft off. We'll give you a signed copy for execution by the commission.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank
I'll-
you, Rob. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate your time today. Happy Friday. No, have a good holiday and New Year's.
Thank you, you
as-
too.
You as well. And thank you very much for putting us first on the agenda. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Take care,
Look
all.
forward to working with you.
Yeah. Same
Bye.
here.
Bye now.
Take care. All right, so financials, so Brenda sent us over the financials just the other day.
Mhm.
Any comments and questions?
I did speak to Jennifer. She needs a little bit more heads up for a meeting than 5 days, just to let you know.
Okay. Yeah, we really like today's meeting really was to kind of for, Wood and Curran. so
Right,
we can
right.
Get them going.
Okay, previously, what we used to do with the accountant was ask when it was convenient for them to provide us monthly reports and then schedule the meeting. So if we can get sort of a date range from Jennifer, what part of the month, and she can know to expect a meeting in that date, around those dates, depending on our schedules for, mid-month. Does that sound okay? Continue that policy?
Well, I
Yep.
think she's just looking for specific days of the week, maybe like the third Tuesday of the month or something like that.
Oh,
So what
I
what
thought-
is what would Jennifer provide for reports that Brenda doesn't already send us?
if you would see the report that we used to get from John, you would realize there are quite a few other ones that she provides. And then she could also be asking questions on stabilization, on different aspects of our retained earnings, in case we have something to ask that Brenda doesn't have, because Brenda does not have access to SoftWrite.
And I
And
do have access to SoftWrite, Lee. It's just some
Oh,
of the
you do?
reports. That's how I generate those reports,
okay.
through SoftWrite, the revenue and the expenditures.
Mhm.
She ran those end of year reports for you.
Right.
Um,
And Mike, I sent it over to you so you could take a look at.
Okay, well, I
reach
think we
out to
just,
her.
Mhm.
we just need to continue to give her some time and work with her and let her know what our priorities are so she can keep them on our radar, but I think she has a lot of balls in the air that we'll be facing for a while.
Yeah, and the new woman in her office started Monday. And she's really good. She knows SoftWrite. She's worked with it for like 20 years or so. So she came in and she was, posting bills and getting bills paid this week already. So I
That's
hope
good,
it'll be a nice fit.
because I
I
know
would just add,
that you're familiar with it.
Go ahead,
so,
Brian.
Lee and the commission, if you have anything specific for Jen, like if you have an old report from Dawn that you would like to specifically see or specific questions, I think it'd be helpful to, in that 5-day notice, kind of give her an email, say, can you come to the meeting with these items? And that way she's able to get those for you. Thanks.
Yep. That's reasonable, right, Lee?
Yeah, but just as long as we know when we can expect to get end of the month reports. If she says the 20th instead of the 15th, then we can know when to plan our meetings that way. Because we could probably be having other meetings earlier in the month that does not involve any financials. If you follow what I'm saying. If we want to discuss financials, we have to know from her office what is the date that she can provide information so that we can plan.
We need time to review before we speak.
Right.
Okay, I had a question about the indirect cost because I was talking to Jennifer about some of it. The end of the year report that was provided only showed a credit of $1,279. And then I had emailed both of you what I had requested from Dawn back in March. So we're missing like $30,000 in credit from last year. And then there's also the credits from this year that we haven't even started on. But one thing that I did talk to Brian about is in our indirect cost from last year and this year, he was only listed as a half hour a week with us. And he is listed as 5 hours a week with sewer. Brian did say he was amenable to bumping up to 5 hours a week with us as it is with sewer, if we would vote on that.
Yep. No, he spends more time with us now, so I'll make a motion to adjust the indirect cost to from half hour a week to 5 hours a week for Brian.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And then I have to just get some information from town hall about what the current salaries are, because what we have in our budget for this current year are salaries of people that are no longer with us. So we want to make sure we have accurate numbers that we're dealing with and can reconstruct our indirect cost accordingly, and then to know what their projected salaries are for next year.
So when you guys do the budget, do you guys edit the indirect costs and get the approval at the end?
What we do is basically the accountants department handed us the indirect costs, say this is what they are.
Yeah.
And you've seen the spreadsheet where
Yep.
they break out everything, right?
Yep.
But I'm saying the last time we got indirect cost was a year ago in December. And since that time, don't forget, we've had the entire treasurer's and accountant office leave. Plus we've had town engineer leave and the town accountant, well, they left. So we have adjustments that have to be made in what those numbers were for the current year and for last year.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
because as I have pointed out in an auditor's letter from 2015, the recommendation was accountability and reconciliation every year with the indirect costs, which have not been done. And this is what we're trying to accomplish now with the new people in hand.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure that our customers are not being overcharged or the town is not undercharging. We want it to be equitable and fair for everyone. Because we're looking at $170,000 in our budget right now for indirect costs. And when I first came on board, it was 89,000, but then a lot of staff has been added since I first came on board.
Right. And costs of, salaries have gone up since then, so,
Yeah,
okay.
so
All right.
we'll work on that, and Brendan and I will start working at some point on the budget.
I did send Jennifer the calculation sheet and some older emails that you had sent Lee to Chris Senior and whatnot.
Yeah, I
Uh,
sent that to Jennifer also.
Oh, okay, well, I think she that might have gotten lost somewhere in translation, but she was really kind of working on our stuff the other day, so I just sent it to her, so it was right at the forefront.
Yeah, because I sent her an email this week too, to indicate. Because I had talked to her.
Oh, okay. All right, so she has everything, well,
Yeah.
if she needs anything else, she can reach out.
Absolutely. She seems very amenable to that, very easy to work with. As I said, I saw her at town meeting Monday night and talked to her a bit. And then sent her some information after that. Okay, so Brenda and I will be working on the financials.
Okay. So any other discussion on financials and direct costs?
Nope.
Okay. I want to move on to the Bear Hill Power relocation. Is Glenn coming?
I don't know. I don't think I invited him, to be honest.
So if Glenn's not here, he and I talked about it the past couple days. So I think, as you're all aware, that the relocation is the power feed for the facilities, the water facilities at that tank go overhead on a pole set through some private property on coming up from the Clay Spring side, and this relocation would then put it underground to the power feed that comes underground up the driveway. So it'd be a lot more resilient to weather, and it would also kind of take it off the private property issue. I'm not sure if there's an easement or if it was just done back in the day. So at any rate, that's kind of the gist of the project, and it makes sense to put it on town property and make it more resilient with an underground feed.
There is no easement currently for whatever reason. So that's one of the major problems. Goes across private property with no easement. And that, that could be a problem any day with the property owner. And this was also, I guess, in conversation or hearsay that this was supposed to be done by T-Mobile when they put their equipment up there, but it was just never sort of followed through. So it remains an open item. And that's why we're looking at it now. So to me, it's a no-brainer, needs to be done. It's something that it's water department responsibility, and I think it should be done. It's all teed up, ready to go. And I think we need to approve it.
Okay, there was a question about the cost.
I believe it was
Did it seem relatively
7,500.
high? Yeah,
Yeah, so I agree. I mean, if it's outlined across a prior property, the homeowners can express getting it out of there. I mean, they can exercise their rights. I agree. It should be moved out. Wood crossings are horrible. If we approve this, which I would make a motion to approve it, I just like to see, just to get another price. It just seems pretty high, just for what the work is.
I disagree. There's trenching, it's an electrician, $7,000 for work these days is not a lot of money, in my opinion. And if we try to get other prices, it puts more work on other people. And it would kick the can down the road months, in my opinion. Obviously, this involves National Grid and several other contractors. So if we try to get other pricing, in my opinion, it would just be postponing this, kicking it down the road, getting into winter. It's not going to happen. And it's through Iria Brothers and Jimmy Clark. I'm
Right.
not so sure they're in I'm not so sure they have interest in giving unfair pricing to the town.
I would just add, it's not just you alluded to it, but it's not just electrical. You know, there's excavation and there's restoration of pavement, and you know all that that goes along with it.
We're going under concrete to do it?
Digging up
I
asphalt,
believe,
trenching.
yeah, it's the asphalt.
Asphalt?
Are they going from the transformer to the meter socket? To that bank of meter sockets? Or are they going from the old meter socket to the bank of meters?
They're
'Cause that was
going
only
from- they're going from the panels or the power or the meters that are right at the top of the driveway when you come up just before the fences. So they're going from where all of these cell carriers get their power. So it's going
Yep.
from there, trenching over to the tank. So it's probably, I don't know, 20 to 25 feet of trenching. So it's taking the existing power that the cell antennas use and bringing it to where the tank gets power.
Okay, so they're going from the meter bank to the tank power, to the service for the tank.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely fine with it. I just think that just because it's what I do, I think it's kind of expensive, but let's just get it done, get it over with. I mean, you know, I agree. Get rid of the wood crossing. So, I like to make a motion to do so this is outside contracting, right? So, I'll leave it as I like to make a motion for the Cohasset Water Department to pay for the Bear Hill Power relocation as spec. Can I get a second?
Yeah, so the contractor would be Iria Brothers and the cost is $7,500.
Yep.
I second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Now, are they expected to begin this right away?
Yeah, we'd have to find that out. I would assume so, but
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
Okay.
we're in winter, and so they might have more problems with frozen ground and everything else. And repairing blacktop and concrete.
I mean, actually, is there even I didn't even see concrete up there. Is
All right, that's blacktop then.
yeah, I believe it's just asphalt.
Yeah, it's asphalt tank.
okay. All right, so yeah, Brian.
Yeah,
Let me-
we'll track them down on schedule and send an email around on what that is.
Okay. All right, so next on the agenda would be Elms Meadow.
Okay, in my never-ending saga here of Elms Meadow, I've talked to several people that I've run into that approach me either at the dump or the supermarket. I get, different stories about different aspects of it. You have the group, you have the younger kids who are really interested in the ice skating area, which now they're complaining about that it hasn't been cut back enough by DPW and there isn't any water in it. And when are we going to dam it up so that the water gets into it? Then I have the other group that are saying, oh my goodness, when are they going to stop dumping on the well field? I see landscapers dumping there. People just come down the hillside and continually dump. And the stuff that they're dumping, they have their landscapers coming in hazmat suits, spraying all their trees and their lawns, and they're dumping that stuff in the well field. And they also complain about the little white fence that's never been repaired. Now, Jonathan, we did a PFAS of the outfall right there at the end of Norfolk Road, right? And did it have PFAS in it?
Yeah, I think the number was about 13.
Yeah. So, you know, it seems as though we know it's coming down from the hillside then, because that's where all it's coming from. And we're not getting it from anything that DPW is putting on the road for snow and ice removal, because they're not using anything toxic in that area. Isn't that true, Brian?
It's just
Possibly.
sand and salt.
Sand and salt, yeah, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't be getting it from there. You know, so I mean,
Chemical.
people saying to me, well, can't you do something about stopping these people from putting stuff on their lawns? We have sent out notices through the years in the bills about what you shouldn't be putting on, but people, it seems they don't even look at it. I was talking to Justin Schreier too, to see if we could possibly do something online or on to go in and collect any firewood, since we don't have any issues with the well field on. But if there's just something we can do right now while it's just dormant. Any ideas? No.
Well, to clarify, I think that number was actually 9, not 13.
9, okay.
The standard, Jonathan, is 15. I'm sorry, I'm not that
20.
20. Okay. So the PFAS where you've tested is well below the threshold.
On that, in that storm drain.
Right.
All right, do you know where we're talking about, Mike? It's on Cushing Road.
Yes, I'm just imagining it's maybe at the end of Ash Street or Norfolk.
Yeah, it's right in there.
Okay, I don't want to take up much of your time. In a past meeting, I've recommended that the water department erect an 8-foot fence around that well field and protect it like any other reservoir. So
Yeah.
if you're looking for an idea, there's one suggestion, and I'll mute out.
Okay, but the other problem with that is though too, we'd have to do an awful lot of tree removal in order to do it, because the trees are right on the sidewalk. In order to get the fence in. So that's another issue we have to deal with. And I have put that proposal up before some of the residents, and they're not too happy with that. But, you know, how can we keep anybody happy and possibly protect what we have? We've also heard from people who are basically our age, Mike, who said they grew up here and it was a field. So they'd like to turn it back into a field. And then someone else would like to turn it into a lacrosse field. And we're like, no, we don't want to do that. You know, but just a natural field, and put up a smaller fence that doesn't look like it's, I don't know what, you know. And we also have the other side there where the condominiums are. You take a look at that and they're right on top of the other side of the well field. So we'd have to put a fence all around where the condominiums are, because we don't know what those people are doing there. Concom gave them access on that side. But even if we could just start by getting rid of some of the debris, we did have the Norfolk County crew come out for a week to remove it, but then we're not having enforcement from Concom about the dumping, and they are the enforcing agents of the town. So I know it's difficult, and I know we have 2 to 3 people who are living right in that area who are on town boards who aren't doing anything. We have the police supposedly having our cameras out there looking. They haven't caught anyone. The only people we caught were the 2 students that the superintendent said, we're all for protecting the water supply, so we'll send the kids down to the beach. So, it is frustrating. Because I know this water supply has helped us over 5 years have less sludge than we've had because it was producing 20 to 30% of the water. So now that we're not doing that, we're having more sludge, which also impacts us on the other end for cost.
Right.
But
So,
if anybody can even think of any way that we could even get people in who would like to go in and cut up some of that stuff and take it out.
But maybe we could phase in some tree removal and come up with a timeline for a plan to erect this fence.
Mm.
well, maybe we could, maybe we could look at, let's keep Elms Meadow on to the next meeting.
Yeah.
The only thing is time constraints. I know I'm kind of getting limited. I like to
Yeah,
try
but I'm
to
saying-
get through the rest.
Just put on your thinking caps and drive by there and think of some way that we can possibly get rid of this with help from the community instead of putting it on the burden of our budget.
Absolutely. All right, so the next one we're gonna jump onto is sludge removal. Jonathan can take the floor on this one.
Yes, so some good news and bad news. I like to start with the good news.
Oh.
Good news is that most of the activities we have planned over the last 6 months to a year are all proceeding on schedule. This past week, we had the dewatering roll-off picked up for the final time to be returned to Texas, and it was done so within the billing cycle so that we're not being charged for another month of rental. So that is gone. The new shed was built yesterday, and we're very happy with how it looks. And in the next few weeks, we'll be reinstalling the electrical and chemical feed equipment. And on Monday, the mixer is being pulled out of the wet lagoon. So we're very close to having the operation fully winterized. And the bad news is that on Wednesday, I received an email from Bourne Landfill saying that they will no longer be working with us and accepting our stream of waste. So I have at least 3 feelers out to other landfills. Our trucking partner, Dan Whitney, he's going to be putting some feelers out, and he's this is what he does. So we're cautiously optimistic that between these 3, we'll find a variety of solutions that will probably be, some of it will go here, some of it will go there, but definitely going to have to be on this on a daily, weekly basis, inching it forward so that we're not caught with our pants down come March, April. And
So why they deny it?
well, let's say the relationship with them over the last few years has gotten to be a little saltier each year. And I think it's just a matter of their capacity and their permits. They have other customers that are, sending waste to them 52 weeks a year, and their generation is going up, so they kind of get preference over us, unfortunately. So that the short answer, that's my understanding.
Okay.
I would just like to add, we're not great at dewatering our sludge either, so that they really don't prefer what we're sending.
Okay, I know that they were not accepting it for quite a while, and that's why we were sending it out to New York or Western Mass for a while. Any work on the sludge lagoon expansion? Are we ever going to get that done? Does anyone think?
Well, I
That's
think
what we're
that'll
using all
be,
this money.
After the master,
The new sludge building and all that is coming out of that sludge expansion.
yes, and I think that'll be
Yeah.
a big focus of Rob Little's.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, but I thought we still needed the new sludge lagoon. No,
We absolutely need another sludge lagoon, and I'm going to make it a priority of Rob Little's.
okay,
He's already referred to it as low hanging fruit, and he knows that we need to come up with a solution soon.
because I thought it was permitting. That's what I've heard over the years, that DEP has not been permitting it, and this has been our roadblock.
I can't speak to that. I'm not familiar with the permit. I think it was more of a money issue.
Yeah, it's.
Uh, well, no, I mean, because it was, Carl was talking about permitting for a long time. And prior to that, I remember, oh gosh, I don't know if you remember this, Mike, the Concom was having issues with us doing any type of work to expand it and doing any type of blasting because of all the ledge. That was, 2-3 decades ago. So we've
But,
run
you know,
into so many different roadblocks.
with the treatment plan, this will give us the real road direction, what's gonna be prioritized for this commission and future commissions to accomplish for treatability and removal,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really important,
right.
our whole process.
So is anything else on the sludge lagoon?
Just that, it's going to be a top focus of mine over the next few months.
Okay. Thanks, Jonathan. All right, so the next one, we got the 508 CJC restrictions on the permit. That's we all got. Any questions or concerns? They agree, obviously, looks like they agreed to the testing upstream, downstream twice a year. It's part of their permit.
I just have a question whether or not it has been inspected yet, if they have removed anything from that building. I will try and keep contacting town hall to find out about that.
Okay. Anything
Okay,
else?
well, just while we're on, Chief Justice Cushing, Brenda, did you ever get the occupancy permit for 390
Did I get the occupancy permit? No.
permits? Because I had requested them because they said that they have been, having occupancy permits given out for 390 and to send you copies.
No, I don't have copies, but Angela sent that email, which I forwarded to everybody, which said it was 20 units. So I put in
Okay.
20 units.
Good.
Very little water's been used there so far, though.
Yeah, now, did they still have that leak you talked about?
We let George know about it.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
All right, so the next one be the GAC final docs from Tetra Tech. They haven't finished, obviously, right? Haven't seen anything.
No, actually, they are finished. I'm sorry that you were left out of the loop. I thought that you were all included, but yeah, we have received 100% design documents.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
you know what? I would, Jonathan, if you did send them, I've been busy for the last like 3 weeks like crazy. So,
No, I didn't. I just, forgive me. I assumed that everybody was included. I can send them shortly.
don't worry about it, Jonathan. Don't worry about it. So that's good. So they are finished. So we have a document in hand for potential future use.
That's my understanding is that what we have is it.
Okay,
Okay.
well, we probably should check with Brian to make sure, double check that nothing is missing. Because he's fully aware of what we need.
Right. All right, next one will be, we'll talk about the town meeting comments. I personally did not go to the town meeting this year. Special town meeting, Lee was present. I don't know about Chris either, but
I was there.
you were there. So if you guys want to fill in the group. Just quickly about just, our warrant articles.
Everything passed.
Excellent.
It was we gave very limited discussion. Glenn got up and was concerned about work on the culvert afterwards, and I explained that we had the $30,000 for work later in the year when winter was over.
Okay. Excellent.
Mike, do you have any questions about town meeting or comments?
Oh, I think we did a good job in preparing town meeting for the warrant article. So just rinse and repeat next time you guys have another need.
Yep. Thanks for your help. We appreciate it as always.
Happy to.
So who wants to go through the meeting notes?
It's no, I hadn't had a chance to go through them yet. Sorry.
There
I've
is
been-
one.
Um,
One.
so
Something quick for Mike. Mike, I got your email to Chris and I, and just wanted to mention that, so we're going through the amount of 1800s pipe that's in town. It's not an easy task, and that a lot of the pipe has been worked on, like in the 90s, and I don't specifically say it's 1800s pipe, so a lot of it's been cleaned and lined, and if you look quickly at the plans, it looks like it's a 1990 pipe, but at any rate, we'll get you that answer and as soon as we can.
Just to clarify, I had asked Brian and Chris for a rough estimate of how much money we would need to replace the 1880s pipe under South Main. I just did that as sort of a rough estimate so that we can add it to the demands on the town fiscal future. So I wanted to make sure that we had that work included on money that's going to be needed for this infrastructure. And in talking with Brian, perhaps some of it would come out of Water Commission, but much of it might come out of DPW as well. And that brings us into the town budget. So just FYI.
When they develop on South Main Street, you could put it on the developers to replace X amount of sections of pipe as part of their building. So utilities do that all the time. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, Jonathan, Fred, and for Brendan too, that when they come in for, permits and blessings from the water department, that we should really look at the mains, and sometimes they could be responsible, but again, just keep a look at that, because we should have to flip the bill on everything either as well. So, and it's a very common practice with utilities to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, but we also have to be careful about planning too, because don't forget, when they did James Lane, our requirement was to loop the line from the hydrant up to the plant, the pumping station, and planning board said, nope, can't do that, and took it off the permit. So it was on us to mitigate with the developer. So we have to make sure we get the other town boards behind us in some of this, so we don't get stuck paying for everything. And the
Right.
Another part of your question here, Mike, there was part of a 10-year plan that a former employee had done that said that we were doing the water main from what do you call it, the hotel all the way down to the church from the Red Lion, and he put in an estimate of 580,000, but that was almost 2 years ago, so we can't really rely on those prices.
But Brian will come back with good info that I can plug into our overall estimate for long range fiscal planning.
Yeah, I just didn't want to leave you hanging that because we didn't respond that we weren't working on it, but it's we'll send you a response when we have some data behind it.
No worries, Brian. Thank you.
So approval of minutes for November 15 and December 1st. Lee, you didn't have time to review?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay,
If we can postpone it to the next meeting, I'd appreciate it.
okay.
Well,
We'll
Chris,
postpone.
wait a minute, hold on. We did, what was the one I sent you this morning, Chris? November 10th?
November 10th.
So that one's all set, so you can vote to approve that one.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the Board of Water Commissioners meeting from November 10th, 2022.
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so kind of wraps up the agenda for this for today. That was pretty good. Hour and 5 minutes. Should be proud of ourselves. So before we go, just wish everybody happy holidays, happy New Year's. And I'd like to make a motion. Or any other commissioner comments before we wrap up?
okay, I just want to make a plug. If anybody's around next Tuesday at 7:30, Wilcott Center, the last concert for the Rusty Skippers of the season. Have a joyful Christmas season and listen to some nice music.
Thank you, Lee. All right, I like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners at 10:05 a.m.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
All except
Okay. It's
Thanks, everybody.
unanimous. Happy, have a good Christmas and New
Holidays.
Year's.
Happy
See you
holidays.
guys.
Thank you.
Care.
Bye.